I know I'm not a young man. I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smooth as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. And I know how to do this job. When you get knocked down, you get back up.
Debate, yeah. What debate? President Biden doing his best today to stiff walk away from last night's debate disaster. Meanwhile, Trump had this to say in Virginia.
As you saw on television last night, we had a big victory against a man that really is looking to destroy our country. He's the worst. He's the most corrupt, the most incompetent president in the history of our country. Despite the fact that crooked Joe Biden spent the entire week at Camp David resting, working, studying. He studied very hard. He studied so hard that he didn't know what the hell he was doing.
Yeah, it took him 10 days. Joining us right now is Karoline Leavitt, the Trump 24 National Press Secretary, as you know. Karoline, did Joe Biden lose or did Donald Trump win?
Donald Trump won the night last night, no doubt about it. He didn't just win, he dominated. It was one of his best debate performances by far, one of the best debate performances we've ever seen in politics. He was tough, he was disciplined, he spoke with command on the issues, and he really drew a grave contrast between his strength and Biden's weakness. And he also drew on his first-term record that, of course, was so successful, but also talked about his future vision for this country. It was a catastrophic night for the Biden campaign, and the Democrats are in disarray today.
How much have you guys brought in since the debate ended?
We've seen more than $8 million in less than 24 hours come into our campaign. This is coming from every state across the country, hardworking Americans. Our average donation to this campaign is just over $70, which tells you that President Trump is building a movement supported by millions and millions of hardworking people.
I know we had 10,000 in Virginia today, a state that he's been tied in the last three polls. It'll be amazing to see Virginia, New Hampshire, Minnesota. You're tied in all three, and not many people even thought they'd put that in the column or put them in play. What is the game plan if the critics on CNN and MSNBC get to the Biden family and he walks away? Do you have a game plan against likely would-be opponents, other opponents?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are prepared for all scenarios. It's very clear that the Democrats and the fake news are making a massive push right now to get Joe to step down. The question is, will he? He seemed very defiant in his speech today. His wife also seems very defiant. And I think really tough questions need to be asked of the First Lady of why she's been lying to the American people about her husband's lack of mental acuity. With that said, our campaign is going to continue to move forward. As you saw today, President Trump bringing his winning message to a state that Republicans have not won in decades, but we are going to win it this November. In the Commonwealth, we just announced 11 new offices, 8 new offices in Minnesota. We're going on offense in deep blue territories to pick up votes from Biden and the Dems while they are contemplating whether or not they even want their candidate at the top of the ticket.
All right, let's react to this together. I understand President Biden's getting into the nickname game, and he's picked up your boss. Watch.
You have the morals of an alley cat.
I spent 90 minutes on a stage debating a guy who has the morals of an alley cat.
You know, he tried it, obviously rehearsed it, didn't come off. He tried it again. Is President Donald Trump offended?
No, absolutely not. What is offensive to us, to President Trump, and frankly to this entire country, is Joe Biden's morals, his dereliction of duty at the southern border. While President Trump spoke with great compassion last night about the families of victims of migrant crime that he personally takes the time to call and to meet with and to grieve with, Joe Biden denied the reality of their tragedy. He refuses to take responsibility for the crisis at the southern border. He is not a leader. He's not fit to serve, and he has not promised anything to make the lives of this country, the lives of the people in this country safer and better. So let's talk about his morals.
10,000 today in Virginia is a good sign. Just under 10 million earned since the debate is another good sign. Thank you so much, Karoline. Have a great weekend.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.